Imagine a world crossed by storms of every kind, wars that flare up suddenly, natural catastrophes that erase in an instant what entire generations had built, moral and spiritual crises that wear away the very foundations of nations, a humanity that runs without stopping toward an uncertain future. Yet in the midst of this chaos, prophecies, messages, and signs arise that speak clearly. Not all peoples will know the same fate. Some nations, few and specific, seem destined to be preserved, like islands of light in a sea of darkness. This is not about modern theories or fanciful speculations. This revelation has its roots in celestial messages, testimonies of seers and prophets who in different times have received the same disturbing confirmation. From Fatima to Medjugorje, from La Salette to more recent revelations, the common thread is always the same. God, in His mercy, has chosen to protect certain lands and peoples, because in them still burns a pure flame of faith and obedience. But this privilege is not random, nor is it linked to economic or military power. On the contrary, often these are small nations, forgotten by the powerful of the earth, but remembered by God for their faithfulness. Places that on the day of the great purification will be like safe refuges for those who have chosen to believe. Yet, this truth carries with it a terrible question. If only some nations will be saved, what will become of all the others? Is it possible that entire peoples will be overwhelmed by events that will mark history irreversibly? And where will we find ourselves when the world is sifted through divine justice? In this revelation hides an urgent appeal. It is not enough to live in the right nation to be safe. Salvation, although promised to certain lands, is first and foremost a matter of the heart, of personal conversion, of daily faithfulness. But knowing which these chosen nations are is fundamental because it helps us understand God's design, His plan of protection, and His warning for those who today live in lukewarmness. Prepare yourself, because in the next few minutes we will discover which people have been specially blessed and what this means for each of us here and now. The prophecies have announced it for some time. The signs in the sky and on earth confirm it. We are approaching a decisive moment for humanity. A great event of proportions never seen will shake the entire world. It will not be just a political change or an economic crisis, but an epochal passage, a global purification that will separate light from darkness, good from evil. In that time, every nation will be as if passed through a sieve. Some will be wrapped in particular protection, as if covered by an invisible cloak, and will cross the storm with light wounds. Others, instead, will know the weight of catastrophes, conflicts, and sudden collapses until they become unrecognizable. The celestial messages speak of a purification that will spare nothing. The powers that today dominate the world could suddenly find themselves reduced to silence. The places where arrogance has taken the place of humility and where man has replaced God with his own pride will suffer the hardest backlash. It will not be a matter of revenge, but an act of justice and mercy at the same time. Evil must be uprooted so that good can flourish again. Yet in the vision of the seers and in the words of those who have received celestial revelations, there is also an announcement of hope. There exist nations that, thanks to the rooted faith of their people, to continuous prayer, or to a mysterious divine design, will be largely preserved from the disasters that will strike the rest of the world. These lands will become like lighthouses lit in the night, reference points for those who will seek refuge and consolation. What we await, according to these prophecies, is a series of concatenated events, increasingly intense natural calamities, economic collapses that will bring entire systems to their knees, and wars that will explode simultaneously in multiple parts of the globe. It will be a time of instability, where fear will try to govern hearts. But it will also be the time when the power of divine protection over faithful nations will manifest itself. The saved nations will not be immune from all suffering, but will remain standing when many others fall. Within their borders, chaos will be contained, order can be reestablished more quickly, and life, though marked, will be able to resume with new strength. In them, faith will not only be a memory of the past, but a living and operating reality, capable of giving meaning to all that will have happened. The others, those not protected, will live days of great danger, not only because of visible disasters, but because of the spiritual confusion that will overwhelm hearts. Where God's voice is not wanted to be heard, it will resound in its harshest form so that even the last ones wake up. All this does not belong to a remote future. The signs are multiplying right now before our eyes. The wait is not passive. It is an invitation to be ready, to strengthen faith, and to look toward those blessed lands, not as spectators, but as part of a people preparing for the great passage of history. Now we reveal, with firm voice and clear images, the lands that will become refuge. Not simple names on the map, but places where faith, tradition, and prayer have woven a living protection. These nations will emerge as pillars of hope when the world around them is shaken. Each voice that follows is a portrait. Why that land is chosen, what role it will play, and what it will mean for those seeking refuge. Portugal opens the list. Fatima is not just a memory, it is a return time. Here the prayer of the people and Marian devotion create an atmosphere of permanent conversion. Portugal will become a center of spiritual gathering, a place where light returns to illuminate wounded communities. Cities and sanctuaries will become channels of consolation. The people, accustomed for centuries to walking with the rosary, will know how to offer welcome and guidance. Bosnia-Herzegovina, and in particular the Medjugorje area, is the modern sign of the living presence of the Madonna. Land of pilgrimage, small but dense with grace, it will be a port. The roads that today bring the faithful will become safe paths, the church's organized centers of hope. Here will be experienced a protection that does not cancel the trial, but attenuates it. Wounds healed, communities that remain standing to help those who arrive. Italy has a particular role, the historical and spiritual heart of Western Christianity. Rome and the Italian places of worship will not be exempt from difficulties, but their spiritual heritage will serve as a garrison. In monasteries, parishes, and religious orders will be found practical and spiritual resources to support those seeking refuge. Italy will be a node of solidarity, where tradition and charity will transform into concrete action. Poland has been tempered by faith and sacrifice over centuries. This spiritual rooting will produce a resilience that goes beyond geopolitics. Cohesive communities, a population inclined to fasting and public prayer, and a history of moral resistance will make Poland a place of restart. Here, faith will be the engine of organization and reconstruction. The Philippines emerge as a people ardent in prayer. Popular devotion, with processions, novenas, and a robust community sense, will create networks of help and protection. Filipino parishes will know how to respond with human and practical warmth, offering welcome to pilgrims of need. Their ability to transform faith into service will make the country a lighthouse in the Pacific. Mexico will carry the strength of Guadalupe, a deeply rooted devotion that has formed identity and solidarity. Popular traditions and the tenacity of rural communities will constitute a support system capable of sustaining families and groups in flight. Mexico will know how to be a place where devotion becomes concrete support, where the history of Mother of the Nation becomes care. Ireland, though small, maintains a memory of saints and conversions that will translate into spiritual hospitality. Local communities, confraternities, and monastic communities will offer moral and practical refuge. Ireland will be an example of how the spiritual endurance of a people translates into the capacity for welcome and renewed hope. Lebanon appears as a Christian bulwark in the Middle East. Its ancient churches, the tradition of the cedars, and the historical presence of Christian communities will make Lebanon a reference point for those seeking security in a complex region. Here, faith and historical memory will form a fabric of resilience capable of sustaining those who arrive from elsewhere. Finally, some nations of Central and South America, particularly nations with strong parish life and grassroots movements, will compete for the role of lifelines. Places where community is not delegated to the state but actively cares for its members will become indispensable gathering points. Salvation will not be total. It will rather be a human fabric, made of small gestures, of shared food, of collective prayer, and courageous decisions made in unity. When we speak of Latin American nations, we do not refer generically to an entire continent, but to precise lands, already marked by a strong spiritual imprint and by a popular devotion that in moments of trial will become shield and support. In these countries, religion is not a simple cultural element. It is blood in the veins of the community. Costa Rica is one of these blessed places. Often called the country of peace for its political stability and the historical choice to renounce the army, Costa Rica guards an intense Marian faith linked to the national patron, Nuestra Señora de los Angeles. During the Great Purification, this land will be able to welcome and support refugees from neighboring destabilized nations. Parish communities already accustomed to organizing charitable works will transform into capillary assistance networks. Paraguay shines for its deep spiritual life and for a people united by simple and solid values. Its internal geography, devoid of major maritime vulnerabilities and with vast agricultural territories, will make it a land capable of nourishing and hosting. Here, devotion to the Virgin of Cacupe will be the flame that keeps collective hope alive, while families open the doors of their homes to those fleeing chaos. Ecuador will carry the strength of the sanctuary of the Virgin del Quinche and the Virgin del Cisne, pilgrimage centers that will also become centers of refuge. Mountain faith and the solidarity of Andean communities will know how to face the crisis with courage and organization. Here, the population, accustomed to the harshness of life at altitude, will react with discipline and spirit of service, naturally protecting those who arrive seeking safety. Chile, though crossed by challenges, will have particular areas, especially in the southern zone, less densely populated, that will offer protection. Devotion to Nuestra Señora del Carmen and the presence of rooted Catholic communities will serve as spiritual and social bulwarks. Territories far from large cities, immersed in nature, will be strategic points to live away from chaos and organize reconstruction. Argentina guards in the sanctuary of Luján one of the most powerful Marian hearts of Latin America. Although the country may know moments of internal crisis, rural areas and communities linked to Marian worship will keep alive a support network. The culture of hospitality, typical of the Argentine countryside, will be decisive in welcoming and protecting those who will be forced to move. Finally, Brazil, not in its entirety, but in some blessed regions, such as those linked to the sanctuary of Aparecida, will maintain a function as a spiritual pole and community organization. Here, popular faith, vibrant and participatory, will offer not only comfort but also a structure of material support, with the church capable of coordinating rapid and concrete responses. These American nations will have three decisive characteristics in common: a pulsating Marian heart, which connects them directly to the protection of the Mother of God, a strong community fabric where family and parish are natural centers of life and help, a historical resilience matured through past crises which has taught them to react united. During the great event, they will not be perfect oases without pain, but lands where pain will be faced with faith and solidarity, transforming into living hope. Here, the promised protection will not manifest in invisible walls, but in the concrete capacity to welcome, nourish, heal, and guide those who, driven by need, will cross their borders. In the story of this great passage, these nations will offer themselves as places to begin again, where faith will manifest not as theory, but as work. Those who reach these borders will find more than geography. They will find a people ready to care, to pray, to rebuild.